Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Bhavesh Goswami, who is the founder of CloudThat, which offers cloud training and cloud consultancy services for mid-market and enterprise clients from across the globe. Hi, Bhavesh. Welcome to ELI.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a bit about your pre-entrepreneurial journey, like starting from where were you born and brought up, where did you study, which all companies did you work for, and how did you land up in the entrepreneurship the world in first place?
Sure. So thank you for having me here once again. And so basically, I grew up. My dad was a government servant, so grew up all over. His used to get transferred all over Gujarat. So I grew up all over Gujarat, but from uh, uh, senior KG to the to the 12th standard, I'd already had 7 schools. So you
Wow.
can imagine I wasn't in a city for a very long period of time. And then, finally he settled in Ahmedabad. So that's where I did my seventh grade onwards. In my college as well, in my university, I went in Ahmedabad. After that, I went to University of South Florida in
Mhm.
Tampa in US for my master's in computer science. Post that, I joined Amazon. It was a kind of quote unquote secret project, and I had no idea what it was, and it turned out to be AWS, Amazon Web Services, which is the Amazon cloud.
Wow.
So I was one of the initial team members of the AWS cloud. In fact, the CEO of Amazon, Andy Jassy, was my skip level managers, my manager's manager. So you can imagine, it's not that I had a very high position or I was like a high flyer. It's just I was a recent grad, lowly software developer. But it's just that the team was really small at that time. Then I was at Amazon for about 3.5, 4 years, and moved to Microsoft. And in 2011, I moved back to India.
Mhm.
So initially, when I moved back, I just the idea was that I'd been working in US for 10, 11 years. I mean, study plus work, and without any breaks, right? So I just felt a little bit exhausted, and I thought I'll just not do anything for a while, and then start looking. So relax for a bit, and then when I started looking, I realized that India was completely oblivious to cloud. I
Mhm.
mean, even the larger GSIs, right, the TCS and the Infosys of the world, didn't have a dedicated team for cloud, right? They were still on the periphery thinking, trying to sell their own kind of private cloud instead of embracing the Amazon Web Services, AWS. And AWS themselves weren't focusing on India. India
Mhm.
was a very nascent market at that time for IT. This is before digitalization and before all the great work that the India has
This is
done to
which
kind of
year we are talking about?
2011.
Got it. Got it.
So the nearest AWS office was in Singapore,
Mhm.
right? And literally there was earlier it was like maybe I look for opportunities. Let's see. When I moved back to India, but then I quickly realized that the cloud literally had no presence, and that quickly led to formation of CloudThat. And CloudThat, we are from day one. We are a training and consulting company on AWS. But in the initial days, as you can imagine, that it was mostly training projects because Indian market wasn't that much into cloud. So because of that, the consulting projects were few and far in between, but training really picked up. And
Mhm.
so right now, any large corporation you can think of, any of the large GSIs, the first 1,000 people in cloud were trained by us. So we were the only one providing AWS training in 2000. So 11 we started the official formation date because it takes some time for government process. It's from 2012. So
Mhm.
2012 time period, we were the only one providing AWS training. We're the first to have AWS trainings in India. 2014, I believe, is when Azure was released in the current version, and we were the first in India to have Azure trainings as well. And so, when it comes to cloud, we are the path breaker,
Mhm.
and that allowed us to kind of capitalize the market. And most of the large organizations in the planet are our customers for cloud trainings. And cloud consulting picked up a little bit later, but even there, we now work with some of the most important financial institutions. We work with a lot of startups. We work with smaller and medium enterprise, SMB enterprise as well. And so training, and so we currently have two different business units, training and consulting, and we have about 500 people that are part of the organization.
Got it. So when you started back in 2020, 2011 and 2012, uh, like you said, there was no awareness. People didn't know about cloud and AWS. So that also means they were not
Correct.
looking for training and consulting for cloud. So
Correct.
how did you, kind of reach out to them? How did you find the, prospects in the industry? How did you develop the market in the first place?
Correct. So I think that in the there was a lot of, I think people knew about cloud, but they didn't know what cloud was in a way. In the full, they thought it was some kind of storage or a very small part of the IT. They did not know that it is the IT, the future of IT, right? And so initially, I think we got a lot of boost by working directly with Amazon and Microsoft folks as well. Because as you can imagine, the Amazon folks were flying from Singapore, coming to India to be able to give a 1 day, 2 day session and then flying back to Singapore, right? So
Mhm,
when they realized that, hey, there is somebody here who's interested in developing the training business in India, immediately we got a lot of support and momentum, and kind of, they introduced us to a lot of things as well. Same with Microsoft. Microsoft itself is one of our largest customers. Uh, you know, um, they paid us so that we can empower all the Microsoft customers, the larger GSIs, for that, right? So they are one of the large customers for us. So that really helped. But also in the B2C segment, I had to kind of go ahead and learn. I mean, basically, I was a one-man army, right? Like I had to go and create Google Ads, and then Google Ads would create leads. Then I have to go and call the leads,
mhm,
and say, I mean, I tried hiring salespeople as well, but I'd never done sales in my life.
mhm,
So I wasn't good at picking out the right people. So there was a lot of false starts in terms of identifying the salespeople. So eventually it was me who ended up calling people, converting, asking them to pay, right? And I remember my first, so I did the Google AdWords, I called the people, and the first training, I was the instructor.
mhm.
And we had a training, and to my surprise, four people paid for that as well. And I'm like, okay, oh shoot, now I have to train them, right? So I was the one who created the content, I was the one who created the labs. So literally, I think that is, I was a one-man army when it began. But of course, slowly as the business grew, we were able to hire dedicated sales, dedicated
Mhm.
trainers, dedicated marketing, and so forth. And then, it kind of helps you grow the business.
So when you thought of growing the business beyond you and maybe initial few hires, so what was the primary area where you grew the most, or what was the first priority?
To be honest, I think you know when you're starting. So couple of things, right? First, I didn't have any entrepreneurship background. This
Mm-hmm,
was my CloudThat. So I had just started one more company around the time I started CloudThat that made mobile apps, right? And then this was CloudThat. But I was very new to entrepreneurship when kind of we started, right? So I did not have any background on that. So I think a lot of times we learn on the job, right?
mm-hmm,
And so I think, to be honest, I didn't have a perfect strategy or a perfect plan or something like that. You kind of go in the market, you do your best, you hustle, and what opportunities comes your way, you take it. So in the initial days, there were some organizations who were doing this kind of 1 day or 2 day events, like a kind of a seminar of sorts, right? And they would kind of go ahead and charge the customers to attend the seminars, and they would have some high tech keywords so that people are attracted, right? So they'll have cloud and big data and all those keywords. So they need a speaker. So I would voluntarily go and I'll speak at the event and I'll kind of evangelize. And I wasn't getting paid to do that, right? But that
mm-hmm.
really helped me build the CloudThat brand. A lot of people started knowing about CloudThat, knowing about me. And then that resulted into, while the engagements for those people were free, but then that resulted into people contacting me afterwards saying, hey, we need this training or that training or stuff, right? So, or that I created the Mumbai AWS meetup group. So created the meetup group and kind of started bringing people together. And then I had to kind of work with AWS to put the meetup group into their list of meetup groups, so that if somebody went to AWS meetup group list, then the Mumbai AWS user group would have. So it was a lot of, to be honest, hustle, right? Just trying various things, doing a lot of free stuff, traveling a lot, where whatever opportunities come for you to speak or to share your ideas, be there, be present. And I think slowly it kind of organically develops on that. And slowly and steadily, we also realize what marketing keywords work for us, where we get the best kind of leads, and slowly start to optimize that as well. So the paid marketing also started kicking in and giving us some good amount of leads to be able to close. So it was a little bit of everything. I don't want to lie that I had a strategy and this strategy worked. You try 50 things and five of them works out.
Okay. Uh, Next question around that. You try 50 things and some things eventually work out. But then you start to scale up, start to double down on things which work, right? So can you tell us which was the
Correct.
year when things started working out for you, and when you thought ki, yeah, this is a scalable workable model and we want to do it 50x or 100x of what we are doing right now?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I would say that probably 2013, right? Just like randomly, we were just kind of, in Bangalore, and kind of there was this client meeting, and I had gone to a client meeting, right, with one of my salesperson, um, and suddenly somebody calls saying, "Hey, we are from TCS. We want to meet you."
Hmm.
Fine. And by the time we had trained maybe about 50, 60, 100 people total, right, on
Hmm.
AWS. And we went to this TCS office, and we had a VP level guy there and some other guys, and they're all sitting, and they said, hey, we have heard about you. You provide AWS trainings. Tell us about yourself. So
Hmm.
they grilled us. Luckily, they said, what kind of curriculum do you use? So we had printed our books. Actually, we used to carry the books all the time. So we showed them the books. Here's the books content. How do you provide labs? We showed them how we provide labs, this and that. So all the questions they could ask, right? And then once they are satisfied, they're like, okay, we have this huge project and we need to train some people on that, right? So we want to kind of give you a contract, but it's a big one. Would you
Hmm.
be able to do it? So I'm like, yeah, we'll be able to do it, right? So said, what is how many people? So at that time we had trained about 100, people. So I was thinking maybe it will be 150 people. And they're like, we want to train 1,000 people,
Hmm.
and we need to done in 2.5 months, because our project starts now. So we don't have time. We need to kind of, from tomorrow we need to start training.
Hmm.
And you can feel that rush that comes with that kind of,
Right.
you're sitting in one of the largest IT company, and there are people who are trusting you with you and telling you that they want you to train thousands of their first initial batch of cloud guys, right? Cloud team. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them. There, a lot of them have done really great things inside and outside of TCS, right? So
Hmm.
that kind of, that was, I think, a breaking point for me, right? I think, or rather, whatever is technically called, like, that's when I realized that, okay, if a company like TCS, who has their own probably 50, 100 trainers of their own,
Hmm.
right? And they can get any vendor on the planet, anybody TCS calls, any training company TCS calls, they will be there the next day. And they want me to train their 1,000 people. So we must be doing something right, right? We must have developed some capabilities to be able to do that. And then, of course, we created the plan. It was a complicated plan because they were training all over India. So some in Kolkata, some in Hyderabad, some in Chennai, some in Bangalore. There were cloud teams created all over the India. And literally for the next 2 months, 2.5 months, I lived out of my suitcase. I was traveling everywhere in India, training, and at that time we had physical curriculum, printed curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
We hadn't moved to online curriculum. So you can imagine the logistic. I had one guy handling all the printing and everything, and that poor guy was working 16 hours a day as well. I had a printing press who was used to printing 10, 15 books for me. Now suddenly he has to print 1,000 books.
Mm-hmm.
So, he was stressed, but he was also very happy. So I think it was a very stressful 3.5 months, but it's also something that I remember with a lot of joy and a lot of kind of pleasant memories, that was the moment when we realized that, okay, we are onto something. This is something which is required. And post that, I mean, any large, like I said, we would have trained many, many tens of thousands of people for all these GSIs on multiple cloud technologies.
Got it. So that was the story of 2012, 13, and 14. But then industry kind of changed. Cloud became popular
Correct.
even in India, and lot of companies entered. Even in the training and consultancy space,
Yes.
there are multiple competitors right now. So how is it right
Yes.
now for you?
Sure. So let me kind of answer that chronologically
Sure.
as well. So I think what happened for a little bit is that we were the only scalable trading providers in cloud, right? So any large company had to train 500, 600 people on cloud, 1,000 people on cloud. We were the only option. So then from there, I think 13 to I think 15, 16 was the growth phase where it was mostly the problem was from the supply side, not the demand side. The demand was there.
Mm-hmm.
Is how much can I, how many trainers can I create, how many batches can I run, how well can I do my operations, how can I keep my costs under control to be able to grow. So that was mostly the growth phase. We didn't really have to worry about the demand side, and I think we lost focus of that a little bit as well. We didn't have a very strong marketing team, right? Because the leads were just coming in organically from referrals and from people knowing us and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think you are right. 2015, 2016 time period, the upgrades of the world came, the Simply Learns and the Edureka of the world started having cloud trainings as well, right? And while the market size grew, but the competition grew exponentially as well, right? And that's when I think there was 1 year where, so luckily with the grace of God, we have been growing every year for the past. This is my 12th year as a founder, and all 11 years we have grown, and we have been profitable every year. But there was this 1 year in the middle where we only grew maybe I think 3 or 4%, right? And the profit margin was also very slim. And then when I realized that, okay, now we have plateaued, right? We need to figure out what's going on. And I think I realized that basically, and I think it's just kind of how startups work, right? When you have so much demand, then of course you're going to not worry about demand. You're only going to worry about supply.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think that was a mistake. I think even when the supply is good, you should worry about that a little bit as well. I could have still had some marketing guys and invest in having a good marketing team there um, at that point, and that would have give me some buffer. So we started investing a lot in creating a really good marketing team. We started investing in making sure we have good salespeople who can go out and get business instead of just earlier it was sales was mostly um, sales operations or sales fulfillment, because leads were just incoming leads coming. You just had to call them, book the order, and then make sure the execution happens. But now we require a new kind of sales team that can go out in the market and bring business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we really restructured our marketing team, we restructured our sales team, put more emphasis on that. And slowly and gradually, I think it started paying division again. So again, we started growing, and we have grown substantially in the last 4 5 years as well. So how we are doing right now in the competition, just in this year, we have three recognitions from our partners, two from Microsoft. So we are currently there's an award called Superstar Award. So
Mm-hmm.
currently we are not only the India Superstar, but we are Asia Superstar for Microsoft Learning. So those are the two awards that we have received. And for AWS, we are the Think Big partner. So they recognize some learning partners who do well, and so there's a category in that called Think Big, and that's what we were recognized with. So, and the year is not even done, right? It is just September, so there are still a few months left. and there are more award ceremonies coming in this. So really hoping that we can probably clock some more awards. So it's going well, I think. But since that we have expanded our partnership, we are authorized Google partner as well, a Google training partner as well. We
Mhm.
are also VMware training partner. And on the other side, our consulting business also, we have grown quite a bit. And in consulting, we are one of the top AWS consulting partners in India. Any event where they select a handful of partners, we are invited usually, and in the last year, always to those kind of events, right? So, and they selected a handful of partners for their generative AI and data analytics GTMs, go to market, and we are part of that. So I think overall, we have gotten numerous awards. We have got a lot of love from our cloud providers. We have got a lot of love from our customers as well. We have tons of repeat customers who have been with us for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. So overall, I think yes, there is competition for sure, but I think we are able to still grow and kind of make our own name amidst all this competition that we have.
Got it. Speaking of generative AI and data analytics, like you just mentioned, they are some of the top selling courses in platforms like the ones you mentioned,
Yeah.
Upgrades or Simply Learns of the world. How are you
Yes.
thinking about the new technologies? Because cloud as a technology, it was new maybe 10 years back. Right now, there are a lot of
Correct.
resources out there. Even companies like
Correct.
Amazon, they have their own resources. So somebody wants to learn AWS, they can
Correct.
simply log into Amazon. So how are you thinking about future as a company?
So I think so. Um, uh, you know, Priya, just to give you an idea that when I was at AWS for 4 years,
Hmm.
right, about 3.5, 4 years, AWS had probably about 6 or 7 services total. So every year they would launch two new services, things like that, right? And portfolio increase. I think when we started CloudThat, 2011, AWS had probably about 30, 35 services, right? Um, Last year, AWS has a big, and I'm just mentioning AWS because the data, I have the data, the same trend for Azure as well. So AWS and Azure, they have two key events. AWS has reInvent, which happens in Las Vegas, and there's about 50,000 people that attended, 50,000 plus, including I go usually every year. And Microsoft has something called Inspire. Again, happens in Vegas, and they have 40, 50,000 people. And both these companies launch major services and major announcements in those events, right? So last reInvent, AWS released 150 new services or major features in the existing services.
Hmm.
150. And I'm talking about this is about major, not like small little tweaks and enhancement that happen all the time. So not only is that the the not only that the innovation is happening,
Hmm.
but the pace of innovation is accelerating,
Right.
right? I mean, I graduated in 2000 for undergrad. I graduated in 2001.
Hmm.
In 2001, just because I knew Java, I was given a job. And it was one of the big GSIs, right, who gave me a job because all my interview was Java. How do you do this in Java? How do you do that in Java? How do you do testing in Java? All that thing. Enter into Java, gave me a job offer, right? Today, if you look at campus interviews and the kind of interviews we take and other companies take,
Right.
not only they're asking about AWS and this, they are saying, okay, they should know AWS also, machine learning also, data analytics also. So it is a crazy world. Like to be honest, I sometimes when I think about it, I get a bit scared as well that how much can we fit in our head? Because
Hmm.
these students are getting like 1,000 times more complicated question than we got in our campus, and people don't realize it, right? Sometimes people will say, "Arey yaar, today's kids have it easy." No,
Hmm.
man, they don't have it easy. We had it easy because we had to learn Java. You are good at Java, jobs guaranteed, and now
Right.
you have to know so much on that. So to answer your question, right? I think the pace of innovation is accelerating.
Hmm.
So you need to companies like us, why we are able to compete with some of the larger companies. Because larger companies works on scale. So they have to have enough people interested in something. They
Hmm.
have to wait until the market matures and captures, and then they introduce a course because they need lakh, 2 lakh people in that course.
Mm-hmm.
For us, whenever something new comes, we quickly create a course, we quickly launch it, we quickly are there talking about it, evangelizing that and this. Because when there are 150 services launched in a year, you
Mm-hmm.
can't, you have to be like fast paced, you have to be accelerating, and you have to do that. So that's our strategy,
Mm-hmm.
to be at the forefront of technology, not wait for others and stuff, but kind of grab all the opportunities that come on the way. And so there's always this blue ocean. If you have kind of, that red ocean, blue ocean nomenclature,
Yeah.
there's always this white space or blue ocean in the new things which are done. And that's where we want to be. So things which are done and dusted, maybe we are not so much, kind of interested. Maybe that's where the mass market guys might take over. But we keep innovating and we keep making sure that anything new with the cloud, we are there, like generative AI, talking about it, blogging about it, writing about it. Currently, I have about 2 or 3 articles in some major things like Hindustan Times on generative AI, article that I have written. And so, just the entire company has to making sure that we are at the forefront of technology.
Got it. Uh, any big challenges? So since 2012 till date, it's been like 11, 12 years already. Long
Mm.
entrepreneurial journey. Any big challenges that made you think like, oh, buddy, why entrepreneurship? This was a big mistake or something like that.
Every day. No, I mean, see, I think we are like, as you talk with hundreds of entrepreneurs yourself. I actually read a very good book um, on Netflix,
Uh-huh.
right? So Netflix founder I think it was Reed Hastings, right, who wrote the book. Yeah, so Reed Hastings, one of the co-founders of Netflix, wrote this book, the No Rules or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
about the company culture and stuff. So in that, he starts the book saying that 2 years after Netflix was launched,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix was loss making, the loss were accelerating. They did not see a viable path forward. So they went to Blockbuster
Okay.
and they wanted to sell Netflix to Blockbuster. They were asking for only $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
And the Blockbuster CEO said, 50 million, are you kidding me? And at that time, Blockbuster was $16 billion or something company,
Mm-hmm.
right? So for them, 650 million would have been pocket change,
Right.
right? But then they were like, yeah, I can make this on my own for 10 million. Why should I pay? Whatever they were thinking. But he laughed him off and this.
Mm-hmm.
So what I realized is that even somebody as so that he's talking about story, and as we all know, 10 years later, his story is about 2000 something.
Right.
But 10 years later, Blockbuster was bankrupt,
Gone.
and Netflix is what it is, like 100, 200 plus billion-dollar company, right? But
Mm.
what I found from the story interesting is not about the story he wants to tell. What I found interesting is that even Reed Hastings, right, who's supposed to be a great entrepreneur and already was entrepreneur before he founded Netflix, even
Mm-hmm.
he after 2 years of Netflix was ready to sell
Hmm.
for 50 million,
Right.
right? So as an entrepreneur, you constantly go through that motion, and there is no shame in that. You self-doubt is, I think, one of your biggest asset. People
Mm-hmm.
without self-doubt, I think they do good in something like sports and maybe actors and stuff. But as an
Right.
entrepreneur, only the paranoid survive, right? There's a saying that only the paranoid survive in entrepreneurship. So you have to be, I think self-doubt is not bad. You should keep looking at your business, keep looking at yourself. Am I viable? Is somebody going to knock me off? And what I've realized is that entrepreneurs with a lot of self-doubt sometimes are better positioned than people who don't think about that, right? So it is a balance, right? Of course, you have to a little bit of self-doubt, but then of course you cannot beat yourself up. You have to also aim higher and try to achieve bigger things, and have faith in yourself. And I think you
Yeah.
oscillate between this. Someday you feel you are great, someday you feel you are not so great. And I think you oscillate between those two feelings, I think, as an entrepreneur.
Got it. So my final question. Again, I'll go back to the day you started entrepreneurship, and I want to ask this. You had a good job, worked with great people, and in some of the
Correct.
best companies in the world. Why did you kind of, quit that thing and thought of becoming an entrepreneur? Why this path? I mean, today, if you look back, I think you would know that it was the right decision. You did well. but that day, that particular day, you didn't see the future, you didn't have that knowledge. Why did you, quit that path and join this path?
So I would say that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I didn't have this master plan that this is my life and this is I just 2011. I just knew I wanted to be back in India, close to my parents and kind of my home country.
Hmm.
So I just moved to India without any job, without any preset agenda or any business ideas or something like that. Right? I was just in India. In fact, one of the things I wanted to do was to create a winery because I saw that at that time only Sula was the one big
Hmm.
winery, the other wineries weren't there. But then I quickly realized it's very highly regulated, highly this that a lot of government bureaucracy is not my cup of tea, so I dropped the idea. But anyways, I didn't come with a lot of ideas. So then I think this happened accidentally, organically, as I met people, and I kind of this idea came that hey, cloud is big in US, it will be big in India, but nobody's talking about it. Maybe I can get the first more advantage. So that kind of kicked off that entrepreneurship journey. But to be honest, I think that I don't know. I don't. Only the end will tell if I made the right choice, right?
Right.
If tomorrow I go bankrupt, then I might curse myself saying, "Ke yaar, acha job tha, all that. I had a good job. I should have continued. I had so many stock options in Amazon or Microsoft. I should keep the stocks of that company, right?" But I think it's but you do what you do because I think after a while you start enjoying it. After a while, you kind of see that you have never worked so hard. It really pulls you in all direction as a person. It really stretches the limit of how much you can do as a person because in a given day you are driving sales, you're driving marketing, you're driving accounting, you're driving operations, right? I mean, this never happens in a job because you
Hmm.
could be a one of the best salesperson in the world, but then you are just doing sales, maybe a little bit of operations here and there, but
Right.
it really pushes you in all direction, like a rubber stretch from all direction. And I think that's where the growth comes. That's where you find what you're made of. You surprise yourself. Oh, I could do that. You surprise yourself that you have never done a accounting course, you have never done a CA course, but after a while you start correcting your CA like, no, we can put this clause or this won't be this, and you surprise like, I know this, and I'm advising, or same with other technology,
Yeah.
sales, marketing, whatever that is, right? So I think it's very hard, very tough. It is no walk in the park, but it's also one of the most rewarding, one of the most fulfilling thing you can do. Right? And I think for personal growth, it's I think one of the best things you can do to yourself.
I can totally relate to the thing you said. Like even to my CA, I once said, "Ki boss, you don't know this. I know better than you." That happened with me as well. But yeah, that's entrepreneurship. On this note,
Yeah, yeah. I was
on
just mentioning that he's my CA is a childhood friend and he is rock star. But I was very happy that at least one thing I knew better than him on that one particular day. That's all.
right. On this note, we would close the session. Thanks for joining us, Bhavesh. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform, and our best wishes for CloudThat.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful being here. Thank you.